Well, hello, and thank you for joining us. I am sitting here today with Mr. Robert Peace, President and Chair of Sault Ste. Marie Helping Hands, an organization that continues to deliver support and services to some of the most vulnerable populations in our community. Welcome, Robert. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So Sault Ste. Marie Helping Hands, starting off as, a very small group of dedicated individuals, and certainly over the years has gathered momentum like I've never seen, really, in my personal experience, and coming together again in support of those people who would describe themselves as vulnerable and marginalized in many cases. Talk to me about, your experience with this group of volunteers.
Well, when I first came to the Sault a few years ago, it definitely came on the radar very quickly as far as an organization that was helping. And I think it was when I had gone actually to Ukraine a year and a half ago and saw how people came together when governments were busy doing other things, as you can imagine, how they came together and really supported each other. And Helping Hands was very much like that. And I was approached by one of the board members last February if I would like to join. And I didn't know a lot about how everything functioned with it, but I said, I'm on board. And so spent the last 8 or 9 months volunteering there. And I really wanted us to open on Saturdays because we were only open really during the week, during the days. And obviously there's a large segment of the population that might be working.
Certainly.
And so Saturday became an important component. And I got to really meet people and start to know what the organization was all about. And then at the last AGM, our board twisted my heart to wear the president's hat, but I will say I'm not doing everything at all. We have an amazing board that is very hands-on in doing things, and we've had a big challenge being able to staff and get everything up to speed because of the demand that's there.
Well, absolutely, and I think that you hit on an important point there. As the juggernaut, as I will call it, of need in the community accelerated. I have identified Sault Ste. Marie Helping Hands as one of the organizations that really had to kind of grow as they moved along, trying to keep up with the need. And thank goodness there is such a strong community of support within Sault Ste. Marie. Now, somebody like yourself comes on board, and you have this collective of committed, dedicated volunteer, like these individuals who are committed to giving back. So you're in a new location now. What started off on Gore Street, quickly outgrew where they were housed. So you are now just on Wellington Street West, right at Carmen's Way. So how do you see Sault Ste. Marie Helping Hands moving forward? Obviously, the call for volunteers must be ongoing.
Yes. So one of the things, too, sometimes there's a misunderstanding about what we do. And one of the things we wanted to make sure with the new board is that we were collaborating with other groups. We've reached out to a number to try and say, you do this better than us. We're not, food is an example. We are not a food bank. From time to time, people have included some macaroni or things when they've dropped off clothing. We're not asking for that because we know the food banks are the place where people know to go, and we would rather have the food directed in those directions. So we want to make sure we're working with those groups that if we are offered food or we receive food, that we're putting it there and not getting into that as well. Then there's the whole component. So right now we have clothing and household items, and everything is by donation or free. We do not tell anybody. There's also a misconception that we're like a thrift store and that we charge money for everything. We do have $4,000 a month in rent and expenses that we have to cover that is not covered by anybody. So it's simply, are you able to donate something? And if somebody says I'm not able, then there's not a question. And so it has been worked very well and very successfully that way. We have a wide range of clientele, from working people, working families, a lot of families that come in, to some people who are living on the street. And we're not only helping with clothing and household items, but we're also helping with directing people to appropriate resources,
Okay.
to sitting and talking with people,
Right.
the sort of psychology of it all. And we have a lot of people with some expertise in that come and put in a few hours just to speak to people.
Well, and I think honestly, like when for whatever circumstance an individual finds themselves, on the periphery, perhaps, of a life that they would prefer, I think that notion of connection becomes integral, to kind of remind people that, once again, you are not alone. You do find yourself in a community that is very committed to providing the support. And I really like the notion of how you dovetail with other services and almost serve as a conduit, because, again, when you're working with vulnerable populations, there can be no competition. So, yes, I mean, what you're doing sounds amazing and collaborative. Now, $4,000 a month in rent, that would be significant for any organization. Now, you are a registered charity. Therefore, if somebody were moved to do so, they could make a financial contribution. There would be a tax receipt, released to that contribution. Correct?
That's correct, and it's one of the next steps we're working on is to try and do more of a corporate drive. Right now, we've finished sort of our volunteer drive, and we have amazing response from the college and university, from the local community, and now from corporate interests as well. So we have our first. I guess I'm probably announcing it before they have, but our first corporate volunteer drive, and that is with OLG, and they're coming on with several teams over several weeks that are going to be coming in and helping us. And so it's a great experience for them, and it's a wonderful resource for us. And we really want to try and create these teams that can have some consistency over time as well. So that's a win-win, I think, for a lot of people.
So a corporate volunteer program, how does that structure differently from individuals?
Well, this is, of course, a lot of larger corporations usually get into corporate and social responsibility. So they will allow their employees to volunteer during work hours.
Oh, wow.
So they're donating their time, and those people have to agree to it, of course, and want to do it. So they put a call out. Of course, there's no reason why, if they enjoy it, they can't continue on a Saturday or other times.
Absolutely.
Or something like that.
Absolutely.
So it's exposing people to this, and I think exposing people to the reality that those vulnerable people you talk about, sadly, as we all know, that number and those people are becoming more and more, not less and less, unfortunately. So
I was going to ask you, just because you're actually segueing nicely into my next question. Could you ballpark statistically how many people your organization receives and supports on a month-to-month basis?
Well, I can tell you weekly it's about 1,000 people.
Wow.
So Saturdays and it depends on the day. Like
Absolutely.
We had winter storms; it was a little quieter. But when it really gets going, and in the summer or in seasonal changes, when suddenly the next season starts, the good thing is we have a huge influx of people coming in, but we also have a huge influx of donations. So that has worked very well. We've moved to a different strategy of not storing things for a year and getting it, because that's a crazy expensive thing to have to store things. So luckily, most people are actually donating at the beginning of a season, not at the end of the season. So winter is starting. They're not donating their summer clothes. They're actually opening their closets saying, maybe I need a new pair of winter boots. And they're donating their old ones, which works perfectly for us.
Definitely.
Because it's kind of a just-in-time inventory.
Well, that's great. That timely and keeps the clutter to a minimum. So that's terrific. Now, I am aware that throughout the year, Helping Hands will offer certain community events. Now, it's that time, so tell us about what's happening for the community and the kids in particular on December the 9th.
Well, where was it here? I just got a message before I came in here that Santa and his elves have agreed to come on December 9th to the Helping Hands store between, I believe it's 11 a.m. and 2 p.m., on Saturday, December 9th, and he's going to be there to meet the kids. We're going to have some refreshments and music, and people can take pictures, and it should be a great time. We're looking forward.
Wow,
We're really
okay.
excited.
So yeah, December 9th, because obviously any later would run into toy production and, making sure that the deers are fit for the epic trip. So, well, what are you doing on December 9th? Because I know where I'll be bringing my tiny people. So, Robert, always such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Somebody so committed to giving back to the community and being such an active part of our moving forward in a way that supports every citizen, and in particular those who are vulnerable. So thank you very much for what you do, and thank you for making time today.
Thank you. We really look forward to seeing people on the 9th.